Compulsory education refers to a period of education that is required of persons, imposed by law. In some countries the education needs to take place at a registered school. Other countries allow the education to happen outside of school, for example via homeschooling. Antiquity to medieval era. Although Plato's The Republic is credited with having popularized the concept of compulsory education in Western intellectual thought, every parent in Judea since ancient times was required to teach their children at least informally. Over the centuries, as cities, towns and villages developed, a class of teachers called rabbis evolved. According to the Talmud, which praises the sage Joshua ben Gamliel with the institution of formal Jewish education in the 1st century AD, Ben Gamliel instituted schools in every town and made formal education compulsory from the age of 6 or 7. The Aztec Triple Alliance, which ruled from 1428 to 1521 in what is now central Mexico, is considered to be the first state to implement a system of universal compulsory education. Early modern era, the Reformation prompted the establishment of compulsory education for boys and girls. Most important was Martin Luther's text and Die Ratschere an aller Star Currency DTE Deutschen Lands, with the call for establishing schools. Especially the Protestants southwest of the Holy Roman Empire of the German nation with cities like Strasbourg became pioneers in educational questions. Under the influence of Strasbourg in 1592 the German Duchy Alt-Zweibrüll 1/4 CKEN became the first territory of the world with compulsory education for girls and boys. The South German Duchy Württemberg installed a compulsory education already in 1559, but for boys only. In Scotland the Education Act of 1496 had obliged the children of noblemen and freeholders to attend school, but the School Establishment Act of 1616 commanded every parish with the means to establish a school paid for by parishioners. The Parliament of Scotland confirmed this with the Education Act of 1633 and created a local land-based tax to provide the required funding. The required majority's support of parishioners, however, provided a tax evasion loophole which heralded the Education Act of 1646. The turmoil of the age meant that in 1661 there was a temporary reversion to the less compulsory 1633 position. However, in 1696 a new act re-established the compulsory provision of a school in every parish with a system of fines, sequestration, and direct government implementation as a means of enforcement where required. During the Reformation in 1524, Martin Luther advocated compulsory schooling so that all parishioners would be able to read the Bible themselves, and Palatinate Zweibrüll 1/4 CKEN passed accordant legislation in 1592. Followed by Strasbourg then a free city of the Holy Roman Empire in 1598. Prussia implemented a modern compulsory system in 1763 which was widely recognized and copied. It was introduced by the Generalenschuldregelung, a decree of Frederick the Great in 1763 May. The Generalenschuldregelung, authored by Johann Julius Hecker, asked to educate all young citizens, girls and boys, to be educated from the 5th till at age 13 or 14 and to provide them with a basic outlook on religion, singing, reading and writing based on a regulated, state-provided curriculum of textbooks. The teachers, often former soldiers, were asked to cultivate silkworms to make a living besides contributions from the local citizens and municipalities. Funding and training of the teachers was slowly expanded and received funding till teachers gained full academic status in the 20th century. This provided a working model for other states to copy. The clearest example of direct copying is probably Japan in the period of the Meiji Restoration. In Austria, Hungary and in the lands of the Bohemian Crown, mandatory primary education was introduced by Empress Maria Theresa in 1774. Modern era, United States, compulsory school attendance based on the Prussian model gradually spread to other countries. It was quickly adopted by the governments in Norway, Sweden, and Finland, Estonia and Latvia but was rejected in the Russian Empire itself. France and the UK failed completely, till the 1880 years, to introduce compulsory education, France due to conflicts between a radical secular state and the Catholic Church, the UK due to the upper class defending its educational privileges and turfs. In the U.S., Prussian education system has been used, for example, in the Michigan Constitution of 1835, reached the American Commonwealth of Massachusetts in 1852, and spreading to other states until, in 1918, Mississippi was the last state to enact a compulsory attendance law. Massachusetts had originally enacted the first compulsory education law in the American colonies in 1647. In 1852, the Massachusetts General Court passed a law requiring every town to create and operate a grammar school. Fines were imposed on parents who did not send their children to school, and the government took the power to take children away from their parents and apprentice them to others if government officials decided that the parents were unfit to have the children educated properly. Compulsory education was not part of early American society, which relied instead on church-run private schools that mostly charged fees for tuition. The spread of compulsory attendance in the Massachusetts tradition throughout America, especially for Native Americans, has been credited to General Richard Henry Pratt. Pratt used techniques developed on Native Americans in a prisoner of war camp in Fort Marion, Augustin, Florida, to force demographic minorities across America into government schools. His prototype was the Carlisle Indian Industrial School in Pennsylvania. Europe. One of the last areas in Europe to adopt a compulsory system was England and Wales, where the Elementary Education Act of 1870 paved the way by establishing school boards to set up schools in any places that did not have adequate provision. Attendance was made compulsory until age 10 in 1880. The Education Act of 1996 made it an obligation on parents to require children to have a full-time education from the age of 5 to the age of 16. However, attendance at school itself is not compulsory. Section 7 of the Act allows for education otherwise than at a school, that is home education. Variation in countries. Some kind of education is compulsory to all people in most countries, but different localities vary in how many years or grades of education they require and in whether it needs to be in a school or can be provided at home. Due to population growth and the proliferation of compulsory education, UNESCO calculated in 2006 that over the subsequent 30 years more people would receive formal education than in all prior human history. It is possible in many countries for parents to provide education for children by homeschooling, although this is often monitored for adherence to national standards. Criticism. Compulsory education has been criticized on various grounds: the belief that it encroaches on the rights of children, the belief that it encroaches on the rights of parents, the belief that, historically, compulsory education is not guided by altruism, the belief that it implicitly teaches authoritarianism, the belief that the variety of children's individual growth cannot be supported within an imposed structure. See also, Education Index, Public Education, Public School, Child Labor, Homeschooling, Home Education in the United Kingdom, Unschooling, Anti-schooling activism, Raising of school leaving age, Workforce, HSLDA, Democratic Education, References. Further reading, Coleman, J.S., A.L. Equality of Educational Opportunity. Washington, U.S. Government Printing Office. Dunlap, Knight. Is compulsory education justified? The American Mercury, February 1929. Epstein, R. Let's Abolish High School. Education Week. Retrieved April 18, 2007, from http://www.edweek.org. Articles 0431 Epstein H26 HTML, Gatto, J.T. The Underground History of American Education. New York, The Oxford Village Press. Holt, J. Escape from Childhood. In Knoll, J.W., Taking Sides, Clashing Views on Educational Issues. Dubuque, Iowa, McGraw-Hill. Illick, I.D. Schooling Society. New York, Harper and Row. O'Keefe, D. Libertarian Alliance. Compulsory Education, An Oxymoron of Modernity. Retrieved April 16, 2007, from http://www.libertarian.co. Archiduke Need UCN 036 HTM, Rothbard, M. Public and Compulsory Schooling. In for a New Liberty. Retrieved April 12, 2007, from http://www.mrs.org. New Liberty 6 asp. Van Horn Melton, J. Absolutism and the 18th-Century Origins of Compulsory Schooling in Prussia and Austria. Cambridge, Cambridge University Press. West, e.g. The Economics of Compulsion. In the 12-Year Sentence. Retrieved April 11, 2007, from http://www.ncl.ac.uk PDF Economics %20 Compulsion PDF, http://www.liberty.org Viewed 542, external links, The Principle and Practice of Compulsion in Education, a discussion of compulsory education as a human right, from enforced schooling to self-directed learning, a survey and a critique of compulsory education. Why Education is Broken. Author Osamu Fukui shares his thoughts on the educational system and why it doesn't work.